I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to tonight's meeting. This is the third business meeting of the Board of Directors of the City of Hot Springs. I'd like to start with invocation by Pastor Don Crossley, followed by a Pledge of Allegiance led by Director Clark.
Our Father and our God, how grateful we are to come together this time to carry on the business of the city. We pray that you would be in our midst, that whatever is said and done, that it will be pleasing and acceptable in your sight. We thank you for these, our leaders. We thank you for concerned people of this city. We pray that you would bless us continuously and guide us from one good degree of grace to the other. We thank you for all things that you have done and you are doing. May your strength, your power, and your anointing be upon us all. In Christ's name we pray. Thank you, sir. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll call this meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Davidson.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Clark.
Here.
Williams. Here. Garcia.
Here.
Foley.
Here.
McCabe.
Here. This time we'll consider approval of the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda or items under the consent agenda that should be moved to new business?
I move for approval of tonight's agenda.
Motion by Director Williams, seconded by Director Garcia to approve as the agenda as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda is approved. Approval of the minutes of the regular business meeting held on February 6, 2018. Any additions, deletions, or corrections to those minutes as presented? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I so move, Mayor.
Got a motion?
Second.
In a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approval. Minutes are approved. Recognition of guests. City Manager David Frazier has a special guest.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight I'd like to welcome Mr. Koya Suzuki, who is visiting us through Hanamaki's City Employee Exchange Program. Each year, our sister city sends one employee to Hot Springs in order to learn and exchange best practices with local government officials in our area. Mr. Suzuki works in the Disaster Prevention and Management section of Hanamaki City's General Policy and Planning Department. He wants to develop strategies to improve public awareness of disaster prevention and preparation. Due to his father's work, Mr. Suzuki actually lived in Kentucky as a child for about 2.5 years. His English is really, really good. He graduated in 2014 from Satima University with a mechanical engineering degree. His Hot Springs itinerary includes meetings with representatives from Visit Hot Springs, U.S. Forestry Department, the city's public works, police, and fire departments. And we also understand that he's got a gift for picking the horses at Oaklawn Park.
Oh, I bet it
So please join me in welcoming Mr. Koya Suzuki.
Hi, I'm Koya Suzuki. I'm from Hanamaki, Japan. It's a sister city of Hot Springs. And I'm working in City Hall, and my section is Disaster Prevention and Management section. And I learned many things from same kind of people, same kind of business people in Hot Springs, and I'm having really good time in Hot Springs.
Good.
So please come to Hanamaki sometimes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Each year, Hanamaki sends a city employee to visit us here in Hot Springs. They have done that for several years now. So he's just the first visitor for our 25th anniversary on January 15th, which was actually the signing date 25 years ago. Mayor McCabe had a very nice Skype with the mayor of Hanamaki and discussed the many things that are coming in this our anniversary year. We have citizen delegations coming and going back and forth, students, teachers, and the city employee, of course, in addition to the over $2.2 million of economic impact that our Sister City program has had here in Hot Springs are the many friendships and cultural exchanges and growth that we have enjoyed, our children and the adults of our community as well. So we're planning a big celebration when the group comes here in October. There will be city leaders, business leaders. Of course, the mayor of Hanamaki will be visiting Hot Springs in October as well. And we hope that when the citizen delegation travels to Hanamaki for the celebration there in September, that we'll have representation by the mayor or city directors travel with us to enjoy 25 years of friendship and benefit for both of our cities. So thank you all very much for your support and for the incredible hospitality that Koya has enjoyed this week and that the many visitors that we have this year will also enjoy. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. I'd like to thank you because I'm not the oldest one here, but I'm the oldest one on the board. And I can remember the times that we had when you first started doing the work that you're doing. I traveled there in 2000 and 2005 when the countries merged. And I was treated differently from the way you would be treated because they thought I was a black goddess. But anyway, I had a good time. So anybody from the board in the city that goes, they will be shocked. You can't tell them about it. They have to be there to find out, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you
for your support over the years.
Thank you,
We have a
Mary.
very strong program. In fact, just as a side note, we've been recognized as the best overall Sister City program out of all of the cities our size in the United States during the last few years, as
great.
well as receiving a commendation from the Japanese Ministry of Foreign Affairs, recognizing our city's support of our Sister City program. So
that's
thank
great.
you all.
Very good.
Thank you.
And that was Mary Zunick. Not sure, Mary, your official title, but director of the Sister City program.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for all you do. Any other recognition of guests? Any board of directors have a guest? Then we'll move right on to the city manager's report, and he has a state of the city address.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and good evening, everyone. A year ago, I gave my first State of the City address to you, and I remember the next day in the newspaper, a gentleman wrote a letter to the editor criticizing my address because it was too positive and I said too many great things. So with that in mind, he's going to be really disappointed when I finish this evening. I'm honored to present the annual State of the City report to the citizens of Hot Springs, the board of directors, and the hardworking men and women employed by the city. The vision and guidance provided by the board, along with the commitment of our employees to carry it out, and the engagement and support of our citizens, helped the city achieve remarkable results over the past year. 2017 saw several long-range plans move closer into focus, making the state of the city strong and vibrant. As Hot Springs approaches its 170th birthday, the future looks brighter than ever. Hot Springs is proof that a city that does the right things the right way long enough will transform itself to make the most of evolving opportunities. We continue to be the destination of choice for quality of life amenities that one rarely finds all in one place. The healing waters, outdoor recreation, a beautiful and vibrant downtown, numerous festivals and attractions make Hot Springs one of the best places in America in which to live, work, and play. As our contribution, the city has remained focused on making progress on the 2-year goals and priorities adopted by this board in early 2017. As we accomplish each goal, it's important to keep in mind that each is a piece of a larger puzzle. It's a puzzle we all know about, but we don't often piece together for everyone we encounter. For example, the mountain bike trails now under construction in the North Woods will eventually be linked to the redevelopment of the Majestic site, which we believe will have a synergistic effect on each other. And these experiences will be inexorably linked to downtown shops, restaurants, and lodging, which will be linked to the various conventions and other activities that our city is so well known for. Similarly, the Lake Ouachita Water Storage Agreement, approved by the board last year, secures millions of gallons of fresh water supply for the community. This was the first reallocation of water supply from a project lake in the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Vicksburg District, and a major milestone for the future water supply for the city of Hot Springs. We are also making significant progress in securing water supply from DeGray Lake. Together, these two sources should provide adequate water supply and viable economic development opportunities for the Hot Springs region for the next 50 to 60 years. Another long-term project was the initiation of the city's $4.9 million P25 digital radio communications network and dispatch center. This new system includes, among other features, 8 new radio dispatch consoles and a logging recorder, state-of-the-art network design, nearly 100% handheld radio coverage, both in vehicle and in critical buildings, and interoperability with all users of the Arkansas Wireless Information Network. The sound methodology used to critique and review the applications for this project, coupled with some savvy, and I might say good cop, bad cop negotiations with our chief here to my left, these resulted in the savings of nearly $1 million below the estimated cost for this project. The savings will go largely to fund the dispatch center, and when complete, the city should have the best communications system in the state of Arkansas, and the only dispatch center in the state with both seismic and tornado compliant certifications. Also, the Majestic site is another important contribution by the city. The comprehensive site assessment by ADEQ is an important step in the redevelopment process and clears the way for public input meetings that will help determine future use of the property. The property has limited remediation work to be accomplished by removing existing fuel bunkers, and once complete, the site work for residential screening levels allow for unrestricted development opportunities. The board took the important step of adopting 4 guiding values for the Majestic site. Future development of which must enhance economic opportunities, improve the local quality of life and enhance the visitor experience, celebrate the natural wonder of our thermal waters, and respect the arts, culture, and history of Hot Springs. When I first arrived in Hot Springs, I recall some critics of the city complaining that the board had plundered city resources by buying the Majestic site. And yet today, the site is one of the most valuable pieces of redevelopment real estate in the state of Arkansas. Similarly, the North Woods Urban Wilderness Park continues progress following the board of directors' adoption of a feasibility study that recommends developing the city-owned property into a destination for outdoor enthusiasts. Construction is currently underway on the first 16-mile segment of multi-use mountain bike trails, which provide Hot Springs with an important new tourism attraction aimed at mountain bikers and other outdoor enthusiasts, including paddle sports. A partnership with the Walton Family Foundation and Visit Hot Springs has provided resources to move this exciting project forward. A planned 44.5-mile trail system of mountain bike trails will offer world-class trails designed by the International Mountain Biking Association just minutes from our historic downtown. Speaking of downtown, the downtown business district continues to experience strong development and investment. The momentum of downtown development fueled more than 30 property sales with a total value of more than $9 million in 2017. Capital investment of more than $23 million led to 41 new businesses opening in the past year. These statistics highlight the strong entrepreneurial spirit that exists within Hot Springs. Just one example is the city's newest pizza and brewery option called Squeezebox, located at 236 Washita Avenue. The business was opened in late 2017 by Cheryl Rorda and Zach Smith, two well-known musicians in town, and it was named Squeezebox as a reference to the accordion used in their performances. Next door to their business is the studio for KUHS FM 97.9, the city's only solar-powered community radio station, which opened in 2015. These projects took advantage of Arkansas historic tax credits to rehab the 1920 commercial building into KUHS Studios and Squeezebox Brewery and Pizza. Recently, both were honored by Preserve Arkansas for excellence in commercial preservation. While private sector creativity and investment is moving Hot Springs forward, the city is focused on operational improvements in virtually every department of city government. For example, the Water Division has made great strides in reducing the amount of unaccounted for water by locating and eliminating leaks and replacing aging infrastructure. This resulted in decreased production costs even while experiencing an increase in overall consumption in 2017. In our utility billing system, customers can now track and monitor every aspect of their utility services through a new online portal. And we are nearing the launch of a utility payment assistance program called Help to Others, or H2O, for those in need in our community.
Yeah.
In another example, the Hot Springs Police Department initiated new proactive strategies and enhanced enforcement techniques that resulted in some measurable increases in several important statistical categories in 2017. Warrants served increased by 34%. Traffic citations increased by 17.5%. And arrests increased by 66%. All of this is a result of hardworking officers taking a proactive approach to crime and being diligent in their efforts to address criminal activity in our neighborhoods and throughout the community. The department will also continue doing its sting operations targeted at drug crimes and other serious criminal activity in our region. Another example I'd like to point out is the self-funded employee health insurance plan. Last year, the city undertook a comprehensive overhaul of its entire health plan. Costs had escalated across the country, and the city was nearly $1 million in the red, struggling to keep pace with rising costs and claims and underfunding its budget for these services. To tackle the challenge, the city formed an internal study group, and after months of effort and dozens of meetings, both here and in Little Rock, the city adopted a new health plan, changed its plan administrators, changed insurance carriers, and brought aboard new consultants. The city's employees began taking greater ownership and contributing more of their resources to the health plan, and they became more responsible in how they used the services. Several members of the health plan study group are here this evening. I'd like each of them to stand and remain standing as I call their names. Bill Burrow, Minnie Lennox, Brian Albright, Lance Spicer, Director Randy Foley, and Doretha Yates, and Vicki Stoddard, who is also in HR. She helped us immensely, but she's not here tonight because it's her mom's 74th birthday. As a result of your work and the help of our employees, I'm proud to report to the city this evening that the health plan is now fully funded and that the year-over-year savings is more than $1.5 million. Please join me in applauding the work of these folks. So I want to say a word about economic indicators. Our leading economic indicators for the local economy have continued to show steady growth throughout 2017. Visitors have long played an integral role in Hot Springs' economy. Visitor-based spending generated more than $60 million in state and local tax revenues in the greater Hot Springs area, according to the Arkansas Department of Parks and Tourism, which is up 5% from the previous year. The travel and tourism industry supports approximately 7,600 local jobs and contributed to the drop in the unemployment rate to just 4.5%. Locally, the advertising and promotion tax posted a 4.6 increase above 2016 figures. This amounts to more than $6 million in revenue collected within the city of Hot Springs, making Garland County the second highest county in the state for receipt of tourism dollars. The 114th season of live thoroughbred racing kicked off in January at Oaklawn Racing and Gaming, offering nearly $30 million in prize money available this year. Racing is expected to draw approximately 3 million visitors to the newly expanded and updated facilities at Oaklawn. Revenue from the games of skill showed a 10.5% increase, bringing approximately $2 million to the city's public safety departments. On the building and development front, new and existing residential unit sales values spiked 23% higher than the previous year, providing a 9% increase in number of units sold for the Garland County area. New residential building permits totaled 37, with a valuation of $8.6 million across the city in 2017. Commercial building activity is also trending upward, valued at more than $38 million. Significant commercial work can be seen throughout the city, ranging from new educational facilities at the Arkansas School for Mathematics, Sciences, and the Arts to the Weyerhaeuser corporate office remodel, both located on Whittington Avenue. The combined value of just these two projects is estimated to exceed $7 million. Also in the downtown business district, a new residential and retail structure is being built at 502 Central Avenue. This will be the first all-new building construction to take place within the Central Avenue Historic District in more than 40 years. Other indicators include the city's bus transit system with a 1.5% increase in ridership during 2016 and 17, which is in contrast to a nationwide trend toward decreased ridership in public transit that I attribute to Uber and Uber-like services. This amounts to 11 riders per hour for both the fixed route and paratransit systems. Hot Springs Memorial Field also reported increased activity in both fuel sales and aircraft operations. Total aircraft operations, which is landings and takeoffs, increased by 1,000 in 2017, with fuel sales edging just past $100,000. Both transit and airport statistics demonstrate a positive upward trend in 2018. Another program worth mentioning is the Community Development Block Grant Program. This program serves as a catalyst for economic development activities that expand jobs and business opportunities for lower-income families and neighborhoods in Hot Springs. As an entitlement community, Hot Springs receives an annual allocation of $390,000 based on the funding formula. These funds provide much-needed financial assistance for both public and private developments. Sidewalk improvements with ADA accessible ramps and lighted crosswalks were completed on 4 city blocks through a $66,000 investment, and CDBG funds also supported the construction of 6 new affordable homes built by Habitat for Humanity, who we greatly appreciate. Bus shelters will be installed at the Hot Springs Housing Authority Mountain View Towers area to assist residents, and this will be particularly important to seniors and those with disabilities. Now on to the city's largest revenue source, sales tax collections. All indicators point to an encouraging and robust local economy and regional economy, although cities' sales tax returns were down 1% compared to 2016 figures. Building activity and visitor spending are all on the rise, along with infrastructure improvements that should provide a boost to local sales tax collections. The city's 1.5% tax supports the majority of city services, including public safety, all of which directly impacts our citizens' daily lives. Meanwhile, e-commerce companies have continually posted double-digit gains, reflecting the Internet's increasing impact on the national, state, and local retail economy. To consider this in perspective, just one online retailer, named after a large river in South America, posted North American sales of $21 billion, up 23% compared to 2016 figures, driving overall profits up 41% to $724 million in the first quarter of 2017. During the 2017 Arkansas General Assembly, legislation was introduced that would have required every online seller in Arkansas to collect sales tax. Although this legislation would later fail, and there's a lot of litigation surrounding it, some online retailers voluntarily began to collect sales tax in the state in March of 2017. Why is this important to Hot Springs? Well, the Hot Springs economy is heavily dependent on the success and sales within our brick and mortar businesses. If they are unable to compete with online retailers due to a lack of equity in tax collection, the city will be at a disadvantage. When the state's sales tax system was developed, e-commerce wasn't even imagined as a factor in tax policy. Yet I'm encouraged because serious discussions about this issue are beginning to take root both in Little Rock and in our nation's capital. Until both federal and state governments decide to end the subsidy for online retailers, this matter will continue to be of importance to Hot Springs. We must look at revenue diversification to protect city operations from over-reliance on single revenue sources. Regardless of the method of revenue enhancement the board ultimately chooses, the city must increase its general fund or find other revenue sources if we are to adequately fund street repairs, public safety, and park services in a sustainable manner. So for 2018, I'd like to highlight the work that the city will be continuing and that we will be focused on in these areas of activity. First, our water supply and water plant projects still require considerable planning, design, and including bond sales, easements, permitting for the intake, the plant, the water tower, and transmission lines. Overall, this will be the single largest project in the history of the city, and it will require all of us working together to make it successful. Second, the Majestic site redevelopment and the parking authority will move into the public input and planning phases. By engaging community stakeholders, we will bring our prosperous downtown to its full potential with the enthusiasm and creativity of our citizens. The Majestic site represents an opportunity that is truly transformative and will not present itself again in our lifetimes. We must ensure that the redevelopment flows through the board's guiding values for the site, but also ensure that this opportunity has lots of public input, which will be accomplished over multiple input sessions from our partners at Kansas State University and the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville. Third, parking has been an issue in the downtown for some time, and the rapid development we are experiencing will put additional pressure on our existing parking supply. That is why our approach will consist of thoughtful and careful outreach to manage the parking infrastructure by improving visibility and accessibility of these assets. My prediction is that in less than 10 years, the majority of vehicles sold in the United States will be equipped with self-driving technology. This reality will trigger dramatic and dynamic changes in urban planning and will make use of parking infrastructure vastly more efficient. It will reduce the total number of cars on the roads occupying these spaces and will reduce the demand for conventional parking infrastructure, while extending years of additional mobility to older Americans and others with special needs. I'm also going to predict your insurance rates are going to go down.
Yes.
For this reason, we will need to be especially thoughtful in the selection of technologies that may help improve parking in Hot Springs. And just to reflect back, when I started my career as a city manager almost 20 years ago, parking technology has evolved almost as fast as our cell phones. Back then, there were companies, you'd go to these national conferences and they'd sell little vendor heads that you'd put on there and say, look, it reads a credit card. And you had an existing post with a meter and it would slide over and you'd lock it on and it would read your credit card. And it would spit out some thing that was barely legible and you had to tape it to your window and you know the rest of this drill. Well, then they evolved from that to solar read pay stations. And then after that, it was drill holes in the pavement and put these little electronic pucks. They literally look like hockey pucks, and you would countersink them into the pavement in every spot in the city. And they would all be on a radio read grid, and the parking enforcement officer would drive by on the Cushman and look and say, okay, this car's been here this long, and this one's been here this long. But now it's, just last year, we were contemplating in this board, in this room, adding a level, and we applied for a grant. And we were looking at a technology package that included mast arms, electronic mast arms, and signage. Well, just this past week, Bill and I and Lance met with other vendors, and now that mast arm technology is going away. Even the solar-powered pay stations that Portland, Oregon, where I came from, was so proud of, those are going to go away. and they're going to be replaced by a GPS-coordinated camera systems that are microscopic almost by comparison, and we won't have hard infrastructure. It's all going to be on your cell phone. You'll even have an e-ticket. If you want a ticket, you can stay longer and get one, or it'll say renew, and you can buy 10 more minutes or 20 more minutes or whatever it is. So the meter utilization is, the revenues will go up, your costs will go down, and your utilization will improve. And what this really means long-term for cities is that places like Hot Springs that have struggled with downtown parking are going to have a lot less struggling with parking, and we're also going to have a lot more open space for commerce. We are increasingly coming from a culture of people that do things because we have to a culture of people that do things because we want to. And what we're going to have to do in our downtown is something we've already been doing. We're good at it. Making people want to come there is what it's going to be about for our future. And finally, the continued construction of the Northwoods Trails will help create a new economic engine for Hot Springs. By placing a world-class mountain biking facility in close proximity to our vibrant downtown, Hot Springs will offer amenities unmatched across the country. Many cities and other parts of the country have fantastic bike trails. Some have forested trails with mountain terrain, some have trails adjacent to water features, and some have trails that are in close proximity to their downtowns. But few, if any, have all of the above on 2,000 acres of public land, with design and construction by the International Mountain Biking Association just blocks from their downtown with instant access to a national park. That's what we have, and we need to make the most of that. In conclusion this evening, I'm pleased to report that the state of Hot Springs is strong and full of opportunity. Yes, we face challenges in funding our streets, parks, and emergency services, but working together hand in hand with one another and with our citizens, visitors, and employees who love this community, we're going to have a wonderful 2018 in Hot Springs. Thank you.
Thank you. This time we'll move to the Board of Directors announcements of upcoming events. Any upcoming events you want to share with the board and the audience? Thank you very much. We'll move on to
Mayor,
the consent agenda.
Excuse me, Mayor, I do have a question.
Yeah.
With the upcoming celebration in Hanamaki for the 25th year, do we have anybody going to that on the board? Have you been invited specifically to attend that?
I'm considering going, and should the board so choose to have an elected representative go.
Can we maybe put that on the agenda in the future so we can address that? I think now would be the time to do it.
We have it in the budget,
Oh,
Director
okay.
Foley, so we'll go ahead and have Lance add that to your agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so now we're under
question.
consent agenda.
Now I have a question.
Oh,
That
I'm
is
sorry.
a future agenda, right? Not tonight's agenda.
Not tonight.
Correct. That's
Okay, all right,
yes.
thank you.
Tonight or anything. Okay. Now we can move on to the consent agenda. These tend to be of routine business and do not really merit discussion, so I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Director Clark, seconded by Director Williams.
Davidson.
Oh, I'm sorry, Director Davidson. Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The consent agenda is adopted. We have 3 items under new business. The first will be a resolution number R1821, and asks the city attorney to read by title only.
Resolution R1821, a resolution establishing an Employee Wellness Fund Reserve, amending the 2018 budget, and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would now entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to
I so
adopt.
move, Mayor.
Got Director Jones, seconded
Second.
by
Second.
Director Clark. This time we'll hear from City Finance Director Doretha Yates.
Thank you, Mayor. Our city manager talked earlier tonight about the status of our Employee Wellness Fund. And so I won't belabor how we got to where we are right now, but the purpose of tonight's actions, there's 3 items that we're recommending to the board. The first one is to establish our reserve at $1 million for this fund. The second one is to reduce the 2018 premiums by $511,000. Those premiums would be allocated back to each fund based on their share of employees. Once they were allocated, about $288,000 would go back to the general fund and general fund dependent funds. So the recommendation is to take $275,000 of that and do a budget adjustment to fund a firing range for the police fund. So those are the 3 items that are part of this item. So if there's any questions, I'd be glad to hear them.
Any questions of Aretha? Hearing none, thank you. Do we have any citizens signed up?
No, sir.
We have no citizens signed up, so any discussion amongst members of the board? Hearing none, we have a
I
motion
just
and a
would like-
second to approve as
Randy.
Excuse me, Mayor.
I guess I want to pause
No
a
problem.
little bit more.
Hear you.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to
Director
say
Fowler.
this is a real opportunity to take a self-insured plan and fund it. What had happened in the past is we never funded it, so we were always subject to the bad years where we had to take money out of the general fund. So things like the firing range, for example, which would have been spent out of the general fund, didn't get spent in the times that we were over budget. So by not only placing some in reserve, but capturing some of that back and doing things that we had to take from in the past, I think we're on the right path.
Yeah, city activities, certain activities had to be delayed or foregone in order to fund the health plan. So returning those funds to various departments allow them to take on projects that they otherwise would have been in future years. Any other comments? Please call the roll.
Davidson,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Garcia,
Aye.
Folly,
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. Next item is to consider resolution number R1822, and ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R 1822, a resolution authorizing the purchase of certain vehicles pursuant to the State of Arkansas Cooperative Purchasing Program. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Director Clark and Director Jones is a second. And go back. All in, Doretha Yates, Finance Director. Thank you, Doretha.
This resolution is to approve the purchase of 16 vehicles from the state contract. Arkansas state law allows us to purchase vehicles without our bidding it, but using the bidding of the state to take care of this. Every one of these vehicles are budgeted in the 2018 budget that you approved back in December. And there's about the total purchase price is $434,000. Of this, 141, and I'm rounding, is general fund, 188 is police, 27 is street, 25 is stormwater, and 23 is wastewater. The funds for the general, police, and street will be all provided by short-term financing.
Director Garcia.
Thank you. And as I understand, the majority of these replacements are not, there was only maybe 1 or 2 that could be reutilized somewhere else in the city, and any will be sold for, others will be sold for surplus.
That's correct.
And then go back to their appropriate department.
Right.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Doretha?
Thank you.
Thank you. Any citizens signed up?
No, sir.
Discussion amongst directors. Hearing none, please call the roll.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Folly.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. Our final action item of the evening is to consider ordinance number 01807, but I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only.
So moved.
Got a motion by Director Clark, seconded
Second.
by Director Foley. All in favor of the motion to suspend the rules, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Council, please read by title only.
Ordinance 01807, an ordinance authorizing an agreement with Citizens Bank to provide short-term financing under Amendment 78 of the Arkansas Constitution for certain 2018 capital acquisitions, declaring an emergency and for other purposes. That concludes your reading of the title, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Thank you. Motion to adopt,
So moved.
Director Garcia, seconded by
Second.
Director Jones. And this is the Doretha Yates Show, third time.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. My final item. For several years now, we have borrowed short-term funds to fund our capital needs for our general fund, police, fire, and street funds. And the state of Arkansas allows us to borrow short-term money for this. We went out, got bids, advertised for those, and received 8 bidders, 2 of which were declared non-responsive. Staff's recommendation is that this 5-year financing would go to Citizens Bank. We're asking you to authorize a financing of $1 million. However, our plans at this point are only to draw down about $521,000. If we were to need that additional money, we would come back and get approval from the board, but we wouldn't need to go out and advertise again because of the way that we wrote the bids. The way the bids come in, we asked for a benchmark rate and then asked them to add basis points for them. And the best rate came from Citizens Bank for the 5-year Treasury note with an addition of 15 basis points. And I know you guys have all probably been watching the market and know that it's moving around quite rapidly. And when I wrote this bar back on the 12th, the rate with the basis points was going to be 2.688. Today, the 5-year Treasury market ended at 2.65, so the rate on this would be 2.8. This is above what we budgeted, but on a 5-year debt service schedule, it's still not real material. But we will draw down $521,000, and again, this will be used to fund general fund capital purchases, police, and street. So,
Thank you. Any questions of Ms. Yates? Any citizens sign up?
No, sir.
No? Discussion amongst the board. Hearing none, please call the roll.
Clark.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Folly.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. And I believe we have an emergency clause.
We do, Mayor, which will require reading in its entirety. Section 6, Emergency Clause. The Board of Directors hereby determine that the instigation and completion of the projects here and above set forth are essential to the public health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of the city and must be financed as quickly as possible. An emergency, therefore, is declared to exist, and this ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after the date of its execution. That concludes your reading of the emergency clause. If you would, please entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt the emergency clause.
I move to adopt the emergency clause.
Second.
Motion by Director Williams, seconded by Director Garcia. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Emergency clause is adopted. This time we have Board of Director comments. Director Williams.
And Lou, well, with the weather I hear brewing outside, I hope we would all promptly exit as soon as possible.
We got, we're probably not going to be much longer. Any
Basketball game on.
director items?
Mayor, I'm not a director. I do have one thing I want to mention, though. The staff are trying to make travel arrangements for anyone that's going on the DC fly-in. And if any board members are going to go, we'd like to have approval. I believe, Mayor, you had interest in going.
Yeah.
So we'd like to have approval from the board for us to make those travel arrangements.
Yeah, there's a group of people headed to for the DC fly-in April 23rd, 24th, and 25th. We meet with our U.S. congressional delegation on matters that are specific to Arkansas, not only Arkansas, but really Garland County and Hot Springs. So I have cleared that on my schedule if that is something that the board would like a city elected official to attend.
I so move.
Art?
Do we need a motion?
You don't
Sure.
necessarily need a formal motion. However, your policy that you adopted pursuant to Resolution 7618 of 2011 does state that out-of-state travel would be approved on a case-by-case basis. It is budgeted. This is something that is anticipated by the board each year, and so it just need approval of the board, whether that can be by consensus. If someone wants to make a formal motion, that's fine, but not required.
I'm just going to, I attended last year, and I am so glad I did. That was my first trip to Washington like that, and if nothing else, to be in those halls that are so beautiful. The architecture is exquisite, and you'll enjoy it. It's fascinating if you haven't been before.
Well, we have a number of items that are at the federal level, and no less than our water.
That's right.
Water issues, and having those private discussions with our senators and our congressmen, other issues that are pertinent to the city. So
We'll keep you busy.
right. Thank you. Any other board of director comments? We have any citizens signed up for the public portion? Director Foley?
I would like to make note, in the newspaper, there was a recent article about the Boys and Girls Club closing and the YMCA stepping in and taking care of those children. And I noticed that the executive director is in the audience tonight. Pete, thank you and the board for your support of the kids in the community. Really do appreciate it.
Oh, Pete up here.
Very good. Thank you very much. Okay, I guess we're trying to conclude the meeting, so we'll need a motion to.
Well, Mayor, I move that we adjourn, please.
We have a motion to adjourn by Director Williams, or Director Jones, I mean.
All right,
Excuse me.
now.
I'm sorry. We have a second by Director Williams.
Yes.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, we'll be here throughout the rainstorm. We are adjourned. Thank you very.
No.
Okay. Give us 1 minute. Thank you very much. We are adjourned. And be safe going home tonight. Be very safe.
Storming
I
up
said-
there.
He didn't sign up on the right place.